Hi again, everyone. I'm Ollie Matthews. This is the Narcissistic Resistance, and this resistance video is sponsored by contribution from Anonymous, and here's her story. Hi, Ollie. What you do is fantastic. Your refreshing take on how horrible these people really are has helped me gain the strength to understanding why I am in my current situation and validate that I am not just a selfish, horrible human being for having normal emotions and needs. I wanted to contact you so that you may be able to help others who may have made similar life choices as I have. My mother was a very obvious narcissist drug addict who had me specifically to be used as a pawn with my father. She conveniently turned up pregnant with me when my father was finally done with her. When it was finally done with her bullshit, and started the process to get divorced from her. Perfect timing, right? She then ran away to a battered women's shelter, claiming my father had physically abused her when I was 10 months old. He divorced her after that stunt. I was made very aware that I was only her cash cow the entirety of my childhood. She received funds not only from my father, but his parents as well. All the while, I lived in horrible conditions with the utilities being shut off regularly and was often sick from the dirty environment of our trailer. Her side of the family was used most for babysitting me when my mother needed a break from making sure I stayed alive, where I was sexually abused from a young age. When I asked her for help in making it stop, her only words were, "Well, that happens." Sometimes your borderline drug addict narcissistic mother whose only value is in her pussy. Sometimes she needs to have a child in order to keep her dick in attention at the time around. And it's a real shame when you're that child, because you have it right. You're just another pawn. At the age of 9, I refused to go to her family anymore and instead take care of myself, which then meant that I was responsible for all my own needs from that point forward, including making sure I had food and getting myself to and from school. She was either gone most of the time or asleep, and I sure as hell didn't want to suffer the wrath of waking her up. Yeah, waking my mother up from one of her drunken stupors. Oof. Oof. And you kind of enjoy it once they're passed out, because at least then they're not fucking talking. When she did interact with me, it usually involved either taking care of her in some way or money issues. I was made to start working at 14, and all but $30 per paycheck went to her for help with the bills. All this time, she still receives money from my father and his parents for whatever excuses she gave them. The main feeling I have left over my childhood is immense loneliness that I think has damaged part of me for life. Oh, growing up, yeah, you're broken for life. We all are. But to be told you're nothing more than a cash cow, you're only in it for the money, and you tell her that you're being sexually abused, and she says, "Oh, well, that happens." How could you not? How could you not have loneliness when the better option is to leave your mother passed out on drugs than to wake her up to interact with her? How could you not suffer from immense loneliness? She died alone in a nursing home at the age of 64 after suffering medical problems related to her alcoholism. Good. Good. I refused to take care of her or be made to be her power of attorney. Her debts were outlandish, and I wanted no part of that traced back to me. I still think it is funny that Sally Mae followed her to the nursing home where they garnished her disability check. Thankfully, even being alienated from my dad, I have a wonderful relationship with him as an adult. I'm hoping you get this with your daughter too. Maybe. Fast forward to me being 18 and breaking away from her by living over a garage at a friend's house with no plumbing running to the space directly. It was not the best place to live, but it was away from her. I started a new job where I met a man who was miserable in his marriage and also 14 years older than me. At that point, I had never had an actual relationship with anyone, but was desperate to feel like someone cared about me. We were chatty at work and seemed to have similar interests, and I actually felt sorry for him that he was so miserable all the time. I was naive and stupid to not see that he was testing the waters to see if I would be a great replacement for his wife at the time, to see if I was responding to those in crisis, and also, most likely, to see how desperate I was for human contact. Him and his wife divorced after knowing him for about a year. His son was 3 years old at the time, and you guessed it, he suddenly revealed to me he had been in love with me for a long time. I was the most wonderful person he had ever met, and truly unique and special. He groomed me, I can see that now. I was too young and hurting to get it then. Within a year of his divorce, we were shacking up. After I started to gain some inner strength, I moved out of his home. He hoovered me right back into his life. At the time, I told him I was no longer willing to shack up with anyone. I was on the path to find someone to share a married life with and hopefully have a child. He then began earnestly courting me for the next 2 years until I accepted his marriage proposal. I have to add in here that he has polycystic kidney disease and had both of his kidneys removed 1 year before we were married. Me, being the dumb person I am, thought that makes no difference. If you have medical problems, we can work together through them and lead a productive life together. Well, here I am, 34 years old. He is soon to be 48, married for 5 years now. I make a wonderful caretaker for his young child during his visitations, and also I am fantastic in making sure any crisis he suffers or causes gets resolved. You just have that skill set when you are trained from an early age. After year 2 of marriage, the verbal abuse started, demeaning me, never validating my feelings, and also being told how incredibly selfish I am to accept basic human decency from my spouse. And let me explain to you what happened here. You replicated here the relationship with your mother in reverse. So, whereas your mother had you and told you right off the bat and smashed you at the beginning and told you were worthless. The only thing you were worth was the checks that were coming in. He made you feel good and then started pulling it back. And the only reason he was able to do it is because maybe deep down you saw it as a way of alleviating maybe some guilt you had over what you wouldn't do for your mother. So you married somebody with a disability who's going to do exactly to you what your mother would have done to you anyway. This may make me sound like I'm a complete asshole, but I am staying in this marriage at this point because I know he will not live much longer. He does not do any of the things that could affect his health issues in a positive way. He has needed to lose 20 pounds for 6 years now to qualify for a kidney transplant. Never has seemed to manage it, though. I stopped food policing him just to stop being insulted by him. He loves a good victim party for himself, and he was a victim way before he was aware he had polycystic kidney disease. Oh, I'm sure he was. I'm sure he was, and he picked you out to give him his way and every little thing you wanted. But you basically replicated your childhood with who you married here. You know, without the sexual abuse. But all the other abuse, being demeaned and being treated as you're nothing more, and you're in your mother's house, you were nothing more than the paycheck. And in this house, you're nothing more than your labor. You're living the same life. My marriage has its perks. He's very financially stable and continues to work a 40-hour job a week by remoting in and going physically to the office 1 day a week. He leaves me be for the most part. Now that I am older now, that just isn't enough. The constant loneliness that I still feel has really weighed heavily on me as I age. Also, I would feel awful producing a child with him and putting a kid through that kind of childhood. One where their father would die when they were still very young. My dreams of being a parent to my own offspring are constantly on my mind. I am just tired of feeling like I really do not matter that much in the world, and I am just here to serve other people. I'll wrap up this email for now. I'm only hoping that someone can gain some insight from my life story as to how you are indeed trained by your narcissistic parent to accept abuse just as the way things are. Maybe even help someone realize they are repeating the same mistake of marrying into familiarity of their own childhood instead of a sound partner that can lift them up and give back to you as much as you give to them. As for my own self, I'm finally starting therapy next week. Wish me luck. This is the first time I'm going to actually seek help from my own depression. Keep doing all the great things you do, Ollie. I enjoy your perspective on what's going on with the nation politically as well. Best wishes, Anonymous. Well, first of all, I'm happy you're finally doing something for yourself. And I'm also glad that we're on the same, basically on the same page here, that you repeated your childhood. And you repeated your child because there is just this familiarity to it, and you let your mother, so you were strong enough to let your mother die on her own, but you replaced it. But you replaced her with something, you know, well, you said, but you're getting something out of it as well. However, it's very, very, very bleak. You're right. You know, to try to have a kid at 34 with someone where you know the father's not going to be around very long, that's not a very fair thing to do to the kid or to do to yourself. And you don't want to make the same mistake, whereas your mother had you as a pawn. Okay. Don't have a kid just to satisfy your need to have one. Because that kid is going to be a pawn just as well. Until you're ready to have one and really it's the right time. And it is. And it's unfortunate. You could want to have a kid, but it might just not be the right time for whatever reason. Because children are so easy to damage. And the damage is permanent, as we've seen. So You know, I wish you luck, and it is really sad that at some point you got to seek actual love for yourself. If you have love, then the kid thing will make more sense. But you don't even like this guy, let alone love him. So don't repeat the same mistakes, everybody. But again, Anonymous, thank you for your story and your contribution. I really appreciate it. Thank you to everybody watching. Please leave any opinions or advice in the comment section below. And again, if you want your story read on the channel, you have a topic you'd like me to cover, a narcissist you'd like to expose, you'd like to set up Skype, a phone call, have a private video made, or a Facebook live chat, or you'd like to sponsor a video like this for someone who needs help and can't afford it, or just make a contribution in the channel, to the channel in general, to keep it supported, growing, and successful, because this channel survives 100% on contributions from all of you guys. Without you guys, all this goes away. So if you like what you see here and you want to see more videos like this, you know what to do with the PayPal and email links in the description box. Also, please like and share this video wherever you can. Subscribe to my channel if you haven't, and be sure to click the subscription bell to be notified of all my video uploads. I'm Ollie Matthews. This has been the Narcissistic Resistance. Take